concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. Did you miss me? I missed you guys. It's good to be back. Oh, it's good to be back. It's weird to be back. It's a little weird. I've been having to get back in the groove. Get back in my groove. But I'm going to get back in the groove, and we're going to do it together. We're going to do it with a little bit of Q&A, questions and answers. Questions. So weird to see people say, oh, the week's back to, I missed by Bardwell live streams. I just started doing live streams because I figured rather than releasing like 6 videos a week, I would do live streams 2 days a week, and then I wouldn't have to edit them. But apparently it's just become a thing. It's become a thing for you and a thing for me. A thing for me. A thing for me. So, oh, it's good to be back. Some of you have figured out. You were like, well, where were you for 2 weeks? Well, you go long enough without seeing Stingy, and eventually you're just like, I just gotta go fondle that beard. You gotta go see Stingy. That's what I was doing for 2 whole weeks. Just. And Stingy's like, stop. That was a good video, though. I have to say, not to toot my own horn too much. But that was a good video. I loved watching that the video I shot with Stingy, where we tested different 500 hertz versus 50 hertz. Like, when I was editing that, it was just such a joyful. He's just so happy and fun, and then when we're together, it just feels like we're having such a good time. The editing it, I watched it 5 or 6 times more than I really needed to, because I enjoyed watching it so much. So it was really good to see him. Phantom FPV, good to see you. Oh, Stinger Swarm is here in the chat. Wow. Why are none of their names? Why are their names not blue? Oh, well, I don't know why that is, but good to see you guys. Phantom FPV, Stinger Swarm, and all of you. And all of you. Good to see you all. Thank you so much, Cyclimbo, for pointing out my lighting. Yeah, I've been working on my lighting. I've got a little a little background fill light there. It is plugged in. I don't know if you guys may remember, it turned off in the middle of one of my live streams because the battery died. So it is plugged into USB and will hopefully keep going. So, but yeah, I'm digging this lighting for live streams. A little bit of a little more intimate. A little more intimate, just you and me. Yeah. Good to be back with you guys, though. So many quads missing from the wall. You are right. And some of those quads are broken. I got to do a little flying out there visiting Stingy. And I smashed some shit. You don't go on a trip without taking some quads with you, so. Oh, Aztec Joe FPV. Aztec Joe FPV asks, what are you listening to? Why do you have headphones on? Let's just get the Q&A started. So first of all, Aztec Joe, I'm a streamer, bro. We all have headphones on. That's what we do. You should be glad I don't have kitty ears. Okay, first of all. And second of all, I use the serious answer is, number one, sometimes I play videos on the stream, in which case I listen to the video, because if you play it through speakers, it feeds back into the mic. And number two, I monitor the stream. I got a little, I don't know if you guys, yeah, you guys can just barely see it. This right here is an AB switch. And the way I have OBS set up is if I flip this switch, I can hear the stream. I can monitor the stream so I can hear what's going out on the stream. So I can make sure that everything, you know how people start streams, they start live streams and they're like, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Do you notice I never do that? It's because I got these headphones on. So that's the answer to that question. Woo, there we go. There we go. This is the Q&A. That's what we're going to do here. You're going to ask questions. I'm going to answer them. Some people live stream entertain. Oh, hang on one second. Oh, there we go. Oh, some people live stream entertainment, and then for a special occasion, they do a Q&A, and they let their audience ask them questions. Some people only answer questions if you super chat, right? Not me. That's all I do is take your questions. Super chat? Yeah, no, obviously I would love your super chats. And if you do want to leave a super chat, hit this $sign right down here. Hit that $sign right down there and leave a super chat. No one has left any super chats yet, so easy way for you to support me. But I'll take your questions. You don't think I'll take free questions? Okay. Well, how about, what PWM frequency would you recommend for a 75mm wheelbase tiny whoop? Ethan W. Boom. I'm going to answer that question. Free question. Don't care. I don't care. For 65 and 75mm, I think the higher the PWM frequency, the better. You get significant efficiency gains. And I don't think I think that's the way to go. Once you get up to about 3 inches, it's much less clear cut. But, oh, and by the way, the other, I can't start a live stream without zooming in on these beautiful sausages right over here. Beautiful, beautiful people. The most attractive people in all of FPV. My patrons over on my Discord server. How do you get to be one of these beautiful people? Join my Patreon. There's a link down below. You support me for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it. Totally up to you. And one of the advantages, in addition to just feeling great about making it possible for me to continue to avoid getting a real job, is that you get to go hang out with these people in the GIF parade. Oh, that's not okay, Synthetic. That's just a sausage. That's nothing more. I'll be taking questions from them as well. Woo! Oh, because I said sausages. I got that from Spiff, for the record, from the Spiffing Brit. He calls his viewers sausages, and I always liked it. Yep. Let's start off. I got a question here. If I can't search for your name, then it's going to be really... Here's a question from Sinister FPV. Are any manufacturers going to make express LRS for 915 megahertz with the ceramic antenna? Sinister, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to make it up. I'm going to make something up. There's got to be a reason they're not doing that. Now, could you make a ceramic antenna tuned to 915 megahertz? Presumably, you could, right? Like, there's no technical reason that wouldn't work. So why haven't they? Maybe the size of the antenna is so much bigger that it's just not worth it. But the fact that no one's done it yet suggests to me that they probably aren't going to do it. So that's my take, but I don't know why they wouldn't do it. Yeah. There you go. Did I really even answer Ethan's question? What was Ethan's question? Ethan W. Awesome. Ethan said, awesome, you're the man. I assume I answered his question. Sir Lancelot, let's get your question. What's the best way to incorporate FPV into a high school robotics team during the off-season? Sir Lancelot, this is a really hard question because, like, a lot of times the way that an academic robotics team will work, not that I'm like an expert on this, but from what I've seen is everyone will work together to build a robot, right? There'll be like, obviously sometimes people will get little robotics kits and everybody will build their own. But the problem is if you have 15 or 20 students on your robotics team, for each of them to build their own several hundreds or maybe more dollars robot gets really expensive. And a lot of times, these programs are not terribly well funded. Now, if you're lucky and you live in a school district or you have a program that's incredibly well funded, you know, more power to you. But I get emails from people semi-regularly who say, I have a high school robotics team and, you know, we're trying to incorporate drones or something and we only have this amount of money to spend. And it's just not enough to buy a drone for every single student in the class. So if everybody works together to build a robot and everybody works on a different aspect of it, you know, then that kind of works. But with drones, it kind of doesn't make sense. Everybody needs to be able to fly, right? So you need for them to be able to build their own. So a lot of times that means that you're limited to something like Tiny Whoops, where for $70 or $80 maybe, people could kind of build a Tiny Whoop and fly it. They still need controllers. It just really adds up. So it's very tough. The other thing about incorporating FPV into like a high school program is that learning to fly is pretty challenging. Now, kids tend to do it faster than adults because their brains are just working quicker. So, you know, it's certainly plausible. But like, I think you have to start with controllers and the simulator. And then like, are you going to teach them to solder or are you going to get a pluggable build? Right? You have to really think about where your focus is going to be. Is it the building? Is it the flying? You know? And then you got to sort of break it apart and figure out the budget. It's challenging. It's really challenging. All right. FPV Fest in North Carolina. People are talking about FPV Fest. FPV Fest, North Carolina. I heard something about this. There's an event coming up. Oh, here we go. FPV Fest 2022. Top pilots including Mr. Steele, Nurk FPV, Conasty, Shelby Vole, and more at Little River Golf Resort in Carthage, North Carolina. Wow. On-site full bar and restaurant. Well, I'm sold. When is it? April. April, May, June, July. Well, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. Cheesehead FPV wants to know if I'm coming to Quad Camp this year. So yeah, Rotor Riot has ramped up Quad Camp again. I was unfortunately not able to make the schedule work for Quad Camp, which is, I think it's starting like this week or maybe next week in Orlando. But you never know. You never know. Stingy says, I flew the horse stables at Shelby's event. Are you sure that I did that? Horse stables is, I mean, if you showed me a picture, I'd probably remember it. Nick FPV wants to know when the next Q&A is going to be. Sunday? Sunday. We'll do news tomorrow, too. Let's talk about this question from Ali Duino. I'm actually going to make a video about this. And, where is it? Ali Duino wants to know about this BLE32 by RPM feature. I'm going to make a video about this. This is going to be a little bit in depth, but I feel like I want to just get it out because Ali Duino has asked the question. I see we've got some super chats coming in. Thank you so much to folks who are doing that. Where can I find my, here we go, posts. Yeah. I want to bring up this graphic. Can I see the graphic? My post. Can I see the post? Yeah. I made a video. There we go. Perfect. I made a video about the new by RPM feature in BLE32. And what I basically said was, this graph really explains it all. Does that make sense? No, I'll explain it. I said basically that if you want to be sure that you can take advantage of the by RPM feature, then you want an ESC that has the full range, like 16 or 24 kilohertz, all the way up to 128 kilohertz PWM frequency. And I said that the ESCs that are most likely to do that are F4 ESCs. And this has got people asking, number one, like, if I have an ESC that does like 16 to 48K, should I just throw it out? And other people are pointing out that there are non-F4 ESCs that also can kind of do this. And basically the question is, you know, what do I actually need to get the best performance out of my ESC? So what I want you to see on this graph is, first of all, that these red lines are the motor harmonics, okay? So over here on the x-axis, we have the throttle, which is going from 1,000 to 2,000, which is 0 throttle to full throttle, right? And here on the y-axis, this is frequency. Okay, so this is 10 kilohertz, 20, 30, 40 kilohertz, and so forth. So here are the motor harmonics, the fundamental, which is the actual motor RPM, and then the second harmonic, third harmonic, and so on. And what you need to know is that you do not want the PWM frequency to cross this harmonic line, or you will get mid-throttle oscillation, other bad things will happen. All right? So, what we see here is this blue line here is I believe this is 24, yeah, that makes sense, 24 to 48K PWM frequency using the old method of linear throttle-based PWM in BLE 32.8. And what I want you to see is that the old way, the non-by RPM way, does not cross this motor harmonic. Do you see that? So what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Here, this blue line is the by RPM way, okay? And notice that the by RPM way keeps the PWM down at 24K until it gets close to the harmonic, and then it ramps it up following the harmonic, okay? Now, did I say green line when I meant to say blue line? I may have misspoke. So what can you take away from this? The first thing you can take away from this is that 24K, the old style 24 to 48K PWM, completely avoided the second motor harmonic. So why did we invent by RPM? And the answer to that question is that by RPM keeps the PWM frequency as low as possible, as long as possible, so you get maximum braking response up to about 1400 throttle position, at which point then it rides it up, okay? But other people have also pointed out that the 24 to 48 method, that other people have pointed out that with by RPM, which is the blue line, you'll notice the maximum PWM frequency here is just a little bit over 40K. It's at like 42K. And so they have rightly said that if you have an ESC that goes up to 48K, you will completely avoid that second motor fundamental, the second motor harmonic. Therefore, why do you want an ESC that goes up to 128K? And the answer to that question is maybe you don't. Okay? Now, there are a couple more things to keep in mind here. This is a simulation for a 2500 kV motor running on 4S. Okay? So the RPM that we're seeing here, if we were running a 3-inch prop on a 4000 kV motor, these RPMs would be higher. Okay? So the first thing to take away is that the max PWM frequency you need depends on your motor RPM. Okay? But it is true that if you have a typical 2400 kV, 2306 5-inch motor, 48K PWM frequency at the top end is all you need. Some people are asking about the 3rd, 4th, and 5th harmonic. They are so weak that they don't really matter. So we don't need to worry about them. Now, the other thing that I want you to see here, and again, I acknowledge this is a little bit of a deep topic for a live stream, but I did want to get it out since people asked about it. The other thing to keep in mind here is that this green line here is 2420 to 96K. Now, here's the other argument you could make in favor of a 128K ESC. That if you care more about smoothness than braking torque, then this ESC here set to not by RPM, but just set to 24 to 96K, will keep you in the high PWM frequency through more of the throttle position and give you smoother response at the expense of braking and braking response. So what should we take away from this? The first thing I wish there was a public version of the spreadsheet that generated this chart, so people could put in their own motor KV and see what PWM frequency they would need to stay away from their own motor fundamental. But the other takeaway is that depending on your motor KV and your RPM, you may not need a 128K ESC to properly use the by RPM feature. And the real reason that I said in that video that you want a 128K and you want by RPM, it's not that you couldn't use by RPM with other ESCs. It's just that to be 100% sure that you're avoiding, like, it'll work with every motor and every situation, you want that 128K. JRFPV asks, when you say worse at braking, do you mean prop wash? No. I mean, yes. Braking anytime the motor has to slow down rapidly, that's what I mean. And that's all the time. All right. So I'll probably do a video about that, but that's the quick run through of the video. Let's get some super chats out of the way. We got some super chats coming in. Paul McDonald wants some tips for traveling internationally with FPV. Thank you for a $4 super chat, Paul. So the first thing you got to do is you got to look up the regulation for your airline. Typically, the rules will be the same. In my experience, they're the same. So if you have if you're flying United and they let you carry so many batteries on the plane, then you're going to be fine at getting on the plane in the foreign country at the same as you're getting on the plane here in America. You can run into problems, though, in a couple of situations. One is that you may connect to a different airline. So you may fly into the country on United, and then you may fly the next leg of your journey on some other airline that you haven't looked up their rules, and their rules may be different. Now, that's not going to be a problem because you'll already have checked your bag, but if you had and you probably won't go through security again, although you never know when flying internationally, but you can run into a problem there. The other problem that I've seen people get into is that when they're coming home, the agent that's checking their bags in the foreign country either doesn't understand the rules, or maybe there's a language barrier, or maybe the rules are legitimately different, and they then have a problem. Like famously, Stingy lost a bunch of batteries coming home from Mexico. The agent said, you can't take all these batteries on the plane. And Stingy said, well, that's not what the rules say. And the agent said, well, good, tough luck, basically. And he had to get rid of a bunch of his batteries. So it really, when you say traveling international, Paul, it really depends on what country you're going to. Different countries have different rules. I would find the rules about things like lipos, and I would print them out. If you have things that could be like tools, cutting implements, I would probably check those. Don't check lipos. You can't check lipos. And then just have that documentation with you and hope for the best. That's what I would say. B-Man FPV, just to clarify, because a lot of people are having this question, does my ESC have to have an F4 processor, or will my current T-Motor ESCs run the by RPM? Any ESC running BLHeli 32.8.3 can do by RPM. The question is whether it will have a usable RPM range that properly avoids your motor harmonics. Okay? So the widest RPM range is usually found on ESCs with F4 processors. The reason I said you should look for ESCs with F4 processors in that video is that quite often manufacturers don't publish the PWM range that their ESC supports. And so how can you know whether it's going to have whether it's going to do 16 to 48 or whether it'll only do like 48 to 96, which would be not very useful. So by buying an ESC that has an F4 processor, you can be reasonably sure it will support the full RPM range, and you'll be able to set it up however you want. But if you have an ESC already, and you can look and you see that it supports 24 to 48 or 16 to 48, that's fine for a typical 5-inch quad, typical 5-inch motor. That's perfect. That's fine. It's only if you don't know and you're trying to figure it out that the safest thing to do is to buy an F4. If you can find a cheaper ESC that you know does 16 to 48 or 24 to 48, then yeah. But any ESC, any BLHeli 32 ESC can use the by RPM feature. It's not required to have an F4. And the worst thing that'll happen is you just won't get much benefit from it, but may be fine. Let's take this question from Justin Rice, who asks, thank you for a $5 super chat. Justin, please help me with my X8 build. ESC7 is not showing in Betaflight, but it populates in BLHeli 32. But it reads unknown versus D-Shot. When you say ESC number 7 is not showing in Betaflight, Justin Rice, the first thing I want to know is when you go to the motors tab, is it 100% errors? Or is it literally not there? Like when we look in the motors tab, hang on, let's see if I can pull up an example of this. What was that? Something popped up on my screen. Oh, well, probably not important. Let's see here. If we go to the motors tab, oh, perfect. Do you literally, you see how motors 5, 6, and 7, and 8 are just literally not even there because this is a quad X mixer? Do you literally not see motor 7? Let's see what happens if I do this. So like I can see that all 8 motors are there. That means that Betaflight knows that the motors sort of exist. Now if I go to the CLI, let's look at the resource mapping. Resource motor 7. So if I say resource motor 7 none and delete that motor resource. Hello. Come on back. Come on back, baby. Nope, I've killed it. Well, I broke it. That didn't seem like that would cause that big of a deal. Come on. All right, great. I somehow managed to just screw the whole flight controller just by doing that one thing. For real? Fantastic. I guess it really needed motor 7. Well, I'm not going to bootloader and reflash it here on the live. That's really extraordinary. I'm really surprised that wow. Pfft. All right, time to find the bootloader button. Wow. I'm kind of shocked. I just changed the motor resource. Nothing dramatic. Of course, the bootloader button is this tiny little. All right, well, so much for that. My point is it like literally gone? If it is literally not there in the motors tab, it means Betaflight doesn't know it exists. Now, if you have errors, that's a problem with the signal output. And a lot of times the signal output is related to D-Shot issues. Like there are some flight controllers that have not tested. This should be rare, but there are some flight controllers that have issues with D-Shot output on hex or octo mixers because everybody tests on quadcopter mixers, and a lot of times they may overlook testing on a hex or an octo mixer. So this is the flight controller that I use for testing everything. Now I don't have one. I got to get another flight controller. Hold on. Choking myself. Oh, this will do. This will be perfect. Here's that Diatone flight controller that I ripped out of the Diatone Roma to put KISS in. Is it the configurator? Is that what's happened? Oh my God, I saw that. I saw that GIF. That was disturbing. Are we gonna be okay? Okay, now we go back to this one. Is this one gonna work? Maybe it was configurator messed up. No. Unbelievable. Okay. So what you need to do is, and a lot of times if you go to the CLI, let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm typing. A lot of times if you go to the CLI and you type set D-Shot bitbang equals off, a lot of times that will fix this issue. You can also just try turning D-Shot off. This doesn't work 100% of the time, and then of course you need to type save. This doesn't work 100% of the time, but a lot of times it does. So the other thing you can try to do is you can try turning off. You can try turning off bidirectional D-Shot. You can try turning off RPM filter. A lot of times there are issues with D-Shot commands and bidirectional D-Shot that can cause issues like this. It really goes back to the flight controller designer who should have tested this kind of thing, but they often slip through. So that's what I would suggest you try. Otis, thank you for a $5 super chat. Linus Tactics versus JZ 2 cents. Who actively flies drones? Linus Tech Tips. I don't think Linus Sebastian flies drones. I have seen Linus. Now, to be fair, Linus does like motorcycles. Linus doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who has time to learn to fly drones. He seems like he is really busy redecorating his giant new mansion and dropping 3090s. Linus doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would enjoy flying drones. He doesn't. No, I would say JZ2 Cents flies drones. JZ2 Cents completely seems like the kind of guy who would fly drones. So I'm gonna go. I feel really confident. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I feel really confident that JZ2 Cents is the between JZ and Linus that Jay flies drones and Linus does not fly drones. Linus seems like drones would annoy the shit out of him and frustrate the shit out of him, and he would just be so annoyed. DU4FPV wants to know, what is bitbang? So let's think about, you've got like a microcontroller like an Arduino. You guys don't think I know what bitbang is. I'm going to show you my medal. We're going to see if I'm right. Let's say you've got a microcontroller like an Arduino, okay? And it has hardware UARTs, or serial interfaces, just like your flight controller does. And the way that hardware UART works is you give it some ones and zeros that you want to transmit out the UART. And those ones and zeros represent data of some kind, okay? And the UART, the hardware in the UART is responsible for turning those ones and zeros into an electrical signal that represents the ones and zeros using some kind of signaling, like RS-232 signaling. Well, it's probably not RS-232, but basically there is a sequence of electrical high and low voltages that represents the ones and zeros. And the hardware, the UART, is responsible for turning the ones and zeros into an electrical signal, okay? That is not bitbang. Now, let's say you've got a situation where for some reason you don't have a UART and you still want to transmit that serial data. What you do is you manually write a piece of code to drive an output pin high and low. You manually translate those ones and zeros into electrical impulses, and you manually write the code to create the serial data signal. That's called bitbang. You're bitbanging, because you're manually banging the bits out of the interface as opposed to letting some pre-made piece of hardware do it. Now, D-Shot bitbang, I don't know the exact way that they're working, but normally the way D-Shot works is they use a DMA interface, a direct memory access interface, to send those ones and zeros out the motor outputs. So they're not directly driving the motor output high and low. They're just saying to some piece of code or piece of hardware inside the MCU, send these ones and zeros out, and then it takes care of it. Well, bitbang means they're manually driving the output. And the disadvantage of bitbang is that it takes more processor cycles and is slower. But the advantage of bitbang is that it works on all flight controllers. Whereas if you are not bitbanging, you have to interface with the hardware in a way that sometimes doesn't work. And that's what bitbang is. DU4FPV, I assumed it was an honest question. Yeah. Nate Adams, thank you for a $2 super chat. Could a Gep RC Cinelog 2.5 lift a GoPro Hero 10 in a pinch? Nate, I couldn't say for sure. If I was a betting man, I'd say it would lift off the ground, but it would fly like shit. That's what I would say. Anthony Townsend, thank you for $5 Australian. Trying to get me in trouble. Wants to hear my humorous and ever so slightly offensive Australian accent. And dollary dues. Thank you, Anthony Townsend, for a $5 super chat. Super chat. Trek and FPV, thanks for $2 super chat. When can we expect your Betaflight 4.3 tuning guide and setup? Yeah, I got to get on that. I got to get right on that. You know, I went out of town for 2 weeks. The whole time I was out of town, I was like, there's all this content I'm not making, but I'm so busy. And now that I'm back, I'm like, I must make all the content. I thank God that Betaflight 4.3 didn't release while I was gone, because now I can be like, well, I can work on it. Trek and FPV, it'll be sometime between now and when Betaflight 4.3 releases, and hopefully not after. Oh my God, really? Is this the level of discourse we've come to? Sastrix S asks, do straws have one hole or two? Learn me something today. Well, the question is, what is a straw? Okay? Now I want you to think about this. If you took a cylinder, let's imagine we take a cylinder, and we poke a hole in one end, and we poke a hole in the other end. You follow? Well, clearly that cylinder has two holes in it. Obviously. But that cylinder is not a straw. Right? Because a cylinder with two tiny pinholes in the end is not a straw. A straw is a specific subset of the class of cylinders. A straw is a cylinder, or is it? Is it? Or is a straw a unique shape of its own? You could argue that if a straw is a unique shape of its own, then a straw has no holes in it, because the definition of a straw is that it is a certain topography, and that it would be only if you punctured a hole in the wall of the straw that it would have an actual hole in the straw. That sounds pretty dumb. I mean, obviously, a donut has a hole in it, right? No one would dispute that a donut has a hole in the middle. So, if a donut has how many holes does a donut have? Let's take that question. How many holes does a donut have in it? A donut obviously has one hole in it. No one would dispute that. Isn't a straw just a donut that someone has stretched to very long and thin? A straw is just a very long, thin donut. And since a donut has one hole in it, a straw also has one hole in it. A straw is not a cylinder, it is a donut. That is your answer. Brad Henderson, thanks for a $2 super chat. Thoughts on the Drone Co. Snapshot 2.5? Well, for a $2 super chat, I'll give you my thoughts. Currently, my thought is, what's that? I've never heard of that before. And now I have heard of it. It's the Snapshot 2.5 Bind and Fly Digital Cinewood. Low-profile ducks, aerodynamic layout, carry a naked GoPro like a boss, all while doing it in style. Land on Deborah's desk like a boss. Fly into the sun like a boss. People who don't know this song really confused right now. 13 millimeter motors. Yeah, really? 13 millimeter, you say? Okay. Let's look at some pictures. Uh-huh. 2.5 inch. 2.5 inch is fine for a naked GoPro. Here we finally have an actual picture. 13 to 15 millimeter motors. Carbon fiber frame. Pusher configuration, I think that's good. Carbon fiber frame. That's good. Carbon fiber frames are fiddly, but can be built yourself, so that's nice. Plastic frames, you pretty much just replace them when they break. Everything breaks eventually. Get a closer look here. What's going on with this battery? So, has that got heat shrink on it? I think it does. Yeah. I mean, honestly, you got to see how something like this flies to judge it. It's real. I mean, you could look at the design of a Cinewood frame and say, I see things that I think are deal breakers. And I mean, but if you look at something like this and you don't see any real deal breakers, like like, is there a carbon ring here or is this 3D printed? That's interesting. If you look at it and you don't see any real deal breakers, you still have to fly it before you can really judge whether it's worth a damn. Oh, here's the frame itself. It seems you can build it in a knot pusher configuration as well. One of the things about these is, you know, how fiddly are they to build? How maintainable are they without ripping the whole thing apart? $455 is... That's a fair amount of money. Vista Nebula Pro pre-order. Oh, I can't order. Is it $455 regardless of the camera? Surely not. $480 with Crossfire. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to convince. Excuse me. You'd have to convince me that this was, yeah, like what's it got? You know, it doesn't look like, I don't see anything about it that makes me like think, oh, this is a real problem. Like I'm suspicious about the lack of internal standoffs. Are we going to have good vibration characteristics when we don't have any reinforced standoffs in the middle? I'm a little skeptical about that. I really would be interested to see how it flies. The durability, I think I'm not too concerned about, because Cinewoops are not like, they're reasonably durable, but you're not supposed to just bash the shit out of them. That's not what they're for. The lack of internal standoffs makes me wonder a little bit. The specs seem okay. There you go. Brad Henderson. There you go. That's your $2. FPV Darchian. Thank you for 5 New Zealand dollars. Is there any advantage, in your opinion, to having an H7 versus an F7 running Betaflight 4.3? FPV Darchian, Betaflight 4.3 currently doesn't do anything, for the most part, with an H7 processor that you couldn't do with an F7. The H7 is a little bit faster, I believe. But, like, if you look at the KISS Ultra, the H7 processor has the ability to process audio and video signals in a way that an F7 can't. It's got like built-in stuff, coprocessors, I don't know. So if you look at the KISS Ultra, or the SP Racing H7 flight controller, I happen to have a KISS Ultra right here. The SP Racing H7 and the KISS Ultra both draw their OSD using the H7 chip. They do not have a separate OSD chip. And they can do complicated graphical OSDs that the SP Racing, that the F7 can't do, or at least it doesn't do. So there's definitely advantages to the H7, but most Betaflight flight controllers don't do anything unique with the H7. They could, but because Betaflight is targeted at the least common denominator, Betaflight devs aren't going to develop a feature that is specific only to this one flight controller. So it's left to people like Dominic Clifton and SP Racing to develop that stuff, and it's only available if you run CleanFlight. So I don't think there's a big advantage to H7s over F7s today, not on Betaflight 4.3. Maybe in the future. Why are so many people talking about the KISS Ultra? You can't buy it. It's like a unicorn, asks Cheech FPV. Yeah, good question. I have to say, I expected there to be a lot of interest in my KISS Ultra versus FetTech G4 video. And I don't know, maybe I got just a little bit caught up in the hype. When I released it, though, hang on. Where is it? There it is. Analytics. When I released it, though, oh, it's private now. You can't see what percent it is relative to my normal views. It was about 25% low compared to my normal videos. It did get 6 subscribers. That's always good. Plus subs is always good. Yeah, and the retention, it wasn't bad. Retention wasn't bad. Retention was a little bit higher, probably because people went back and rewatched the flights, I'm going to guess. But my actual, like my click-through rate was 2.7%. My normal click-through rate is closer to 3 or 4%. So that says that people, it could say that the thumbnail or title was bad, but it could say that the audience was just not that interested. And then my views were about 25% lower than typical. So it seems like there was not as much interest in that video as I anticipated. Probably because most of my audience is interested in Betaflight, but also because, as you point out, you can't get the damn thing. Apparently, they sold a run of 800 in minutes, to the point where people were buying the store glitched. They were so overloaded selling the KISS Ultras. And what somebody told me happened was they ordered it and they checked out. And by the time they checked out, it had sold out from under them somehow. So they got billed for the shipping because the shipping stayed in the cart, but the KISS Ultra was gone. So they're selling them as fast as they can make them. And obviously there's huge demand for them, but it still doesn't seem to be enough to drive a video. Some people really love it. So there you go. Cheech FPV says, I'm interested in the KISS Ultra because it has BL Heli pass-through. That is coming to the FetTech G4 in the alpha firmware, but not yet. But I'll wait till Race Day Quad carries them. I mean, Cheech FPV, I don't see it happening. Because I have asked, and I'm not the only one, but I've asked Alexander Fedorov, I've said, listen, man, you've got a hot product. It sells out so fast, you can't keep it in stock for more than a minute. Why don't you make more of them? Why don't you make more of them? And like, on a certain level, there's just an economic motivation. Wouldn't you like to make more money? But not everybody's motivated by money. And that's fine. Wouldn't you like to build your community and satisfy users? There's people out there who want your product and they can't get it. And his take was that he would rather have 2,000 users who he can support at a high level than 20,000 users. He'd rather just keep it a small community. He basically said, I'm not interested in increasing my production. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But I will say, if and when the day comes when I do a KISS Ultra versus FetTech G4 review, which given how the KISS Ultra versus FetTech 4 flight test video did, maybe I won't. Maybe it doesn't matter that much. Maybe there's not enough people who care to make it worth diving into. But if I were to make that video, one of the things I would say is that even if you look at KISS Ultra and go, this is the better flight controller, I would hesitate, because if I can't buy it, if I have a Betaflight flight controller and it dies, I can probably get a spare. If KISS Ultra sells out in 2 minutes and FetTech G4 sells out in 2 weeks, that's got to factor into my decision of which one I want to put on my quads. It's got to at least be in the mix. So, Now, other things are in the mix too. Maybe you're going to say it's that good. Vanover likes it. Vanover feels that the KISS Ultra is superior to the FetTech G4. He made a video about it. I'm not going to restate his position. Phantom FPV just says in the chat, it's not hype, it's that good. There are certainly people who feel that it's that good. And for those people, they're just going to struggle to get them and pray they don't break them. And then maybe fly FetTech on the side when their shit's all broken. But, yeah. It's annoying when some people want something that bad, you can't get it. I think what I should have done differently about this video is I should have included Betaflight. I guarantee you if I had included Betaflight, this video would have been above average. As it was below average. And I only released it because I ran out of time. I didn't want to make people wait longer. I had a lot of technical challenges. I'm not going to go into them because I don't want to sound like I'm whining. But I released the video. I was like, you know what? I could just do another video. I didn't test the alpha firmware on FetTech. I didn't test Betaflight. And I was like, I'll just put it out there and I'll do a follow-up, you know. And then if the video had blown up and people had felt there was value in it, then I would have been like, okay, well, I'll just do a follow-up video. But when the video didn't do well, I thought, why is it not doing well? And I thought, it's because I didn't do those things that I meant to do, that I kind of was like, it'll be okay. And then it didn't do well. And I was like, you know what? I need to just go back to the drawing board with this. So, anyway. Cell Therapy, thanks for a $5 super chat. I have a build that needs a flight controller. Oh my God, we're so far behind on super chats. Cell Therapy. I have a build that needs a flight controller. The ESC is a Hobbywing 60 amp. I have a FetTech G4 and a Hobbywing F7 in my cart. Will be a better pairing. I mean, the FetTech G4, you're going to have to rewire the flight controller. The Hobbywing F7, you won't have to rewire it. And, I mean, it's just a question of if you want to run FetTech and try out the FetTech, you know, the KISS world. Either one can work. But obviously the Hobbywing's going to be an easier match because it'll just plug right in. Thank you, the Mechanic for a $5 super chat. And thank you to Dozer FPV for a $5 super chat. Diatone H743 doesn't play nice with Betaflight 4.3. D-shot errors found out the hard way. Yeah, Betaflight 4.3 has some issues with some H7 processors and bidirectional D-shot. Sometimes that D-shot bit bang fixes it. Sometimes it doesn't. Hopefully that'll be fixed by the time there's a full release. Sastrix says, thank you for a $5 super chat. Bravo, to something I said previously, I suppose. Chris Cameo, thank you for a $10 super chat. How much latency would you say HID joystick mode in Betaflight adds? I love using the transmitter wirelessly in Sims. Curious what your impressions are. Chris, honestly, I wish I could tell you the answer, especially because your $10 super chat is incredibly generous. But I don't know, and I couldn't guess. I couldn't make a meaningful guess, so the only right answer is for me to say I don't know. Personally, though, like, we know that joystick mode in OpenTX already has some issues. We know that latency is a big factor with a sim, and we want to get that latency as low as possible. If you want to do sims, I would install EdgeTX on your controller, so you fix that USB joystick latency bug, and then I would use the joystick. I would just plug in USB. That way, you're going to be sure to get the best latency. I don't know how much it adds. I don't have the tools to answer that question. I just don't know the answer. Hecdectica, thank you for a $5 super chat. How many spare parts do you think an FPV pilot should have? Would you break it down by freestyle racing, electronics versus motors versus frame parts? Well, I think I can safely say it depends. I'm gonna get some new motors on my Moon Goat. Blew up my Moon Goat. Do I have? Yeah, Cricket Hype Train motors. Good, I got spares. Good. Okay, great. It depends. It depends. What I would say is, if you're serious about having spares on hand, what I think you should do is build more of the same quad. Okay. So when I was doing Rotor Riot regularly, I would show up to a Rotor Riot shoot and I would have 3 of the same quad built. And the advantage of that is, number one, you just get consistency, obviously. But number 2, let's say I break a quad, I break an arm, and now I just switch to the second quad. And I smash a motor, and now I switch to the third quad. And we finish the day of shooting. And then we go back to the Airbnb, and it's time to fix quads. Well, I don't have spares. I just take all of the broken parts and the good parts from the quads, and I make a new quad. So I take a motor off one, and I put it on the other. I take an arm off one, and I put it on the other, etc., etc., etc. If you really care about having spares, build 3 of the exact same quad. And this is what racers do. Like top-tier racers show up at a race with 10 of the same quad ready to go. Now, if you're a normal person with a normal budget, then like I would have, like 2 motors, 1 camera, a flight controller and an ESC, a couple spare arms, and you're probably good, right? But the real answer, if you really care about spares, is build 2 or 3 of the exact same quad. And then you can just switch to that quad when you want to keep flying. And when the time comes to fix something, you could just pull parts off it. I don't know. If you're like, I don't want to desolder motors. I mean, it is an option. Remy Tim, thanks for a $5 super chat. I was going to super chat and say welcome back, but that'd be like paying you for lack of content. So I'm not going to do that. Thank you, Remy Tim. Glad to be back. Jonathan Björklund, thank you for 50 Swedish kroner. I'm about to buy my first 5-inch and I'm looking at the Evoke. How hard it is to solder an Express LRS receiver to a plug-and-play drone, or should I go to Crossfire? Jonathan, the good news is that it is exactly as hard to solder an Express LRS receiver as it is to solder a Crossfire receiver. They solder up exactly the same. I can also tell you that I just recently put an Express LRS receiver into an Evoke, and it was fairly easy. The flight controller is right at the top of the stack, and there are a couple of TX-RX pads readily available. It's a 20-millimeter flight controller, so there are little pads, but it's not the end of the world if you know how to solder, so I would say it's not a big deal. Do4FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thanks for answering my questions. By the way, any one-wheel riding under the trees, I was there. You're talking about Sarasota. You're talking about quad camp in Sarasota. That was really fun. Sarasota's beautiful to fly in. I've not ridden a one-wheel in a while, though. Desi Stevens, thanks for a $5 super chat. I have barely enough money for the HD1 kit. Is it a good buy for a beginner? I mean, Desi, you have to make that call. You have to make that call, whether that's the right way to invest your money. There's no doubt that you pay a premium for the not having to solder. So if you know how to solder, then maybe you could get a little bit more value for your money by buying a kit or by putting something together yourself. The HC1 kit is a good buy for a beginner because, I mean, for all the reasons I went into in the video with Ken. Not only if you don't know how to solder, it can get you in the air relatively easily, and the repairs and spares don't involve soldering. People in the chat are pointing out that he probably meant buying a bind and fly with a Crossfire already installed versus soldering in an Express LRS receiver. Good point. Yeah, or the Evoke comes with a Crossfire plug. You can't plug in a Crossfire Nano. You have to solder it up. Right? Pretty sure. Crossfire doesn't have a plug. Thank you, Noob Deluxe, for a $5 super chat. He says, welcome back. Now, never leave again. I feel that way every time I come back from a trip. I feel like never leaving again. And then, you know, a little while later, I leave again. That's how these things go. Thank you, David Lipsy, for 10 pounds. Just getting back to the hobby after some time. Do you know if an X9D running OpenTX can be used with Crossfire 4.0 Plus? Supposedly 4.0 Plus needs Freedom TX. What's Crossfire 4.0? Can anyone tell me that? Oh shit, it's actually a thing. August 2020? No. What? What's Crossfire 4.0? No. What is that? No. The Crossfire firmware? No. You're fine. Tango 2 needs the new version of Freedom TX. Everybody else, you just update. No, you're fine. He's talking about, that's a super old firmware, David Lipsy. That's a super old firmware. Just, if you're running an X9D, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what version of OpenTX you're running. Just update your module, and you're fine. It's only the Tango that had to be updated to a newer version of Freedom TX in order to do this. You're fine. Desi Steve, I thought there was a new version of Crossfire, not like the Crossfire firmware, but actually a new version of the protocol. Desi Stevens, thanks for a $5 super chat. Is the DJI system good for beginners? I mean, yeah, it is. I know that's going to be controversial. Some people are going to not like me saying that. The DJI system is incredibly simple to use. It is relatively easy to install in a quad. It has great range and penetration and is extremely durable. The only thing that it doesn't have going for it is the price. Doom FPV got a good question. Doom FPV. Whatever happened to those Banggood deals videos you used to do? Yeah, so you may notice. Hang on. Do I still have? Yeah. You may notice I used to do these videos with Banggood like coupon codes. Okay. Where what would happen is Banggood would reach out to me and go, "Hey, we're having a sale. Big sale. Do you want us to make a spreadsheet with all these coupon codes?" And of course, all the coupon codes had my affiliate code in them. And I stopped doing them, and I'll tell you why. The reason I stopped, and I see other YouTubers do it, and, you know, that's cool. And some people seem to like it, and that's cool too. But I didn't feel great about it because, here, number one, a lot of times the coupon price would be like 20% off, but then the price it was off would be inflated. So they'd say 20% off, $100, and it would be $80. But you could just find the same product sold in other stores for $80. So the coupon wasn't actually a coupon. It was just a lie. And then, I mean, that may be too strong of it. Okay. Wasn't a lie. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. And then the other thing is that a lot of times the coupon would be like limited number. So there'd be like a decent coupon, but then it would only be like 5 and it would just sell out immediately. And of course, everybody who clicked that link would be using my affiliate code, even though they didn't get the coupon. So it just felt like those, and to be fair, there were some actual good deals in those coupon codes. But like, I just didn't feel great about promoting it when I like for a couple times I would say in the video, make sure you check. But I was just like, this is just a cash grab. It's not, it didn't feel good. And I felt like I just didn't feel good about it and didn't think it was the best use of my, it felt a little too self-serving. And it didn't feel like it was actually really serving my viewers enough for to. And honestly, it was lucrative because a lot of people clicked those links and a lot of people shopped from them. Like, I don't remember which one, but one of those videos, the day I posted the video, it was like I made like over $1,000 in affiliate money just from posting that one video. I was like, holy shit. But it just didn't feel good. And I don't know, like there are people out there who are like, no, I love those coupons. And it's like, yeah, okay. I just didn't feel good about it. So I stopped doing it. That's the bottom line. It's like if 30% of the coupons you post are actually scummy and you've jacked up the price so the coupon is not actually saving you money, but then like 30% of them are actually a kind of a good, they're an actual coupon on a shitty product that no one wants, and then like 5% of them are a good coupon on a product that somebody wants, but it's limited number and they will sell out immediately. Yeah, I don't like that. Anyway, enough about that. So instead, I started doing the new product roundups, which is my sort of way of affiliate code farming. Every month, we do the new product roundup. Oh gosh, we got to do that. We really would have. We should have. Me and Blunty got to do that this week. Oof, it's February. But at least I think there's value there. Like, I always want to be providing value in my videos, not just extracting value from you. What was the question? Do you think a really good analog setup would be better or more efficient than a DJI setup? I don't know why that would be true. I mean, like, you could argue that maybe the DJI system pulls more power. I mean, I'm not even sure that it does, but the motors are what pulls the most power. The video system is nothing compared to the power of the motors. So, no, I don't think it really matters. Desi Stevens, going back to your question about is the DJI system good for beginners? I assume you mean the DJI FPV Caddx Vista system, not the DJI FPV drone. That's a different question. Golden FPV, thank you for a $2 super chat. Can you use a linear antenna on DJI Vista or Ort Micro V? You can. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it won't get as good a range. You have to have matched antennas on the transmitter and the receiver. So if you have a linear antenna on the transmitter and a circular antenna on the receiver, your range won't be as good, but you can do it. It will work. Four Eyes FPV. Any news on flow state? I kind of don't want to even talk about it because I'm kind of tired of hyping it when I don't have anything to show you. So, like, I kind of decided that the next time I would really talk about flow state would be whenever we actually had a way for you to freaking watch it. But the short version is that we have contacts at a couple of streaming services. No, not Netflix or Amazon Prime. Sorry, Crackle. They were you're our B. You're our plan B. Hope your feelings aren't hurt, Sony Pictures. What someone told us, a person who regularly sells programming to streaming services, said that Netflix and Amazon and who's the other big one? I guess Apple, iTunes, whatever, iMovies, said that basically they really only want projects that they are involved in from the beginning. This was a real insight. I don't know if it's true, but this is what he told us. He said that he's heard of like multi-million-dollar documentaries being finished in the can, and they go to Netflix and they're like, want to take our film, and Netflix just doesn't want it because they want to be involved from the beginning so they can help shape it. I don't know. Or maybe they just make more money that way. So he was like, yeah, sorry, you guys aren't going to sell. Because the film is already done, you're not going to sell it to Netflix or Amazon. I was like, okay, well, what can you do for us? So there are some, I guess what I would call, well, I don't want to insult them, but some streaming services that are not at the sort of top tier like Netflix and Amazon Prime that we have shopped it to. And we have to, I'm not sure, we have to look at the deal because like some of these streaming services are ad supported. And like on the one hand, I like the idea that people might be able to watch the film without having to, some people would just like to watch it and get ads and not have to pay. But certainly there ought to be an ad-free option for people who want to pay. And obviously at the end of the day, we have to look at the offer they make us. I will say this. There is a time window there is a date that is fixed, at which point I will consider it a drop dead situation. Now, obviously, I'm not the only decision maker here. So I don't just get to call shots, but I'm a partner with James. And beyond a certain, I'm not going to say when the date is because I don't want you guys to be up my ass when that date comes. I'm going to make my own decisions, but there is a date in the foreseeable future where if the film hasn't sold by then, my attitude will be, let's just effing get it out there any way we can and stop trying to sell it and we'll just self-publish or something. And I'll be disappointed if that happens because the goal has always been to get wider distribution. But at the end of the day, yeah, that's the update. Yeah. Michael Campbell says, what about selling it on your site for a small fee? Yeah, no, that would be fine. Again, it's not about money. If we were to self-publish it on a site, we would make our money back, probably, almost certainly. We would do fine financially. My goal has always been to have it on a streaming service that people outside the FPV community can encounter it so that FPV can spread beyond the FPV community. Mike Bergman, I'm not doing any call to action. Like, I don't want you to email Netflix or anything because, I feel like I've kind of used up the call to actions on this, especially because the film festival was such a clusterfuck that so many people, and not everybody, many people got to see it through the film festival, but also many people had a bad taste in their mouth, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. So I don't want to get out there and say, now I want you to go like the IMDb page. Now I want you to go email the owner of Netflix. And at the end of the day, I just want to, I feel like I just want to get back to you when I got it and not try and, dick you around anymore. So. Yeah. John Richard, thanks for a $5 super chat. My Cinewood motors shut off while doing rolls sometimes. Not during normal flight. What are the causes or fixes? Do you hear, John Richard, do you hear doo-doo-doot or anything like that? Like, what's happening to your quad when they shut off? Does it fall to the ground and die? Or does it turn back on? That's the question. If it's shutting down, we got to figure out why it's shutting down. Does it say, no, it goes into a death roll. John, are you using analog or are you using a DJI? Yeah, Earthling. John, I'll wait for you to get back to me. Earthling and who else? One other person are like, yeah, I paid for that film. I paid to watch the film and I didn't get to watch it. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, there were a lot of technical problems, and at the end of the festival, there were some people who had watched it successfully and were happy. There were some people who had technical problems, but then eventually they fixed it and were able to watch it. And there were some people who paid for the film and never got to watch it. And I went, but I'm going to speak for myself, not for James, because obviously he's his own person. But James and I and the festival people spoke, and my position was, from a customer service perspective, if there are people who are saying, you know, you can verify that they bought a ticket, and they're saying, I never got to watch it, you know you had technical problems. So at that point, like, if you're at a restaurant and somebody's like, hey, excuse me, there's something gross in my food. And you go, oh, crap, you know, that, yup. Well, you comp the whole table, don't you? You're like, oh my God, we effed up here. You comp the whole table. You're like, you guys, please, let me make it up to you. You go above and beyond. And so my perspective is, if the film festival had absolutely no technical issues, and then somebody was saying, I paid for the film and I didn't get to watch it, you'd be like, look, buddy, sorry, but, you know, that's on you. But since there were technical issues, their position was, well, the people who didn't get to see it, like, they didn't follow the rules. We had some DRM in place. Like, if you tried to start watching it on your phone and then switch to your laptop, then it would negate your ticket because you can't switch devices. And their position was, we told them they couldn't do that. All these people, they tripped our fraud protection, and that's on them. And I was like, I don't agree with that. I think you should be giving these people refunds. But obviously it's their business and their money, and they said, well, we're not going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's really nothing I can do about that. So I feel bad, and that's not how I would have handled it. I would rather lose money. If I screw up and people get hurt, my default position is going to be to give you the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't mean I'm going to let you rip me off. Like, if you just, I'm not going to let anybody walk up and be like, oh yeah, I need a refund too. Like, you know, we're going to do a reasonable due process to verify that you bought a ticket. But at that point, I'm just going to take your word for it. And I'm going to potentially lose money, and maybe next time I'll make my damn website work right. But their position was, we fixed all the problems. We did everything we could reasonably be expected to do. And at this point, we're not giving anybody any more refunds. And there was really nothing I could do to force their hand. And in addition, there was no way for me to go, okay, well, I'm going to cover them because I don't know who bought tickets. So I still feel bad about that. But going back to John Richard's question, let's see if I can find his answer. John Richard, Cinewood motors turning off. Death roll, John. It's DJI. Oh, John, since it's DJI, you're not seeing the warning element. The warning OSD element would really help us know why it's shutting down. Unfortunately, without the warning element, it will be very difficult to troubleshoot. The next question, John, would be, do you hear doo-doo-doot, doo-doot, or anything like that when it rolls? That's, I guess, the next question. Which one do you like better? Asks Bersama Alquran. Which do you like better, Fat Shark Attitude V6 or HDO2? HDO2. It's better and it's more expensive. But if I have to pick, I pick the HDO2. No, he does not hear any of that. My best guess, John, is that you're having a runaway situation. A runaway where one of the motors is bad, and then when you do a snap roll, the quad disarms and falls out of the air. If you could get a black box log, we could do a better job of figuring it out. If it shuts down and you don't hear any doot, it must be disarming. John, you might consider, there's a version of Betaflight you can get that puts the warning OSD element in the DJI goggles. And if you could figure that out, that might help. Because knowing the warning element would be helpful. Is it literally disarming? Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't fall out of the sky. The other thing is that if it rolls diagonally, it's a bad motor. But if it just disarms, then it's the flight controller. Northern Tier FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat. Joshua, glad you're back. Just got a Radio Master TX16S updated. The Edge TX RF module wants an update. Northern Tier FPV, I have a video about how to do that. That video is here. The video you're looking for is this one. Let me just send this to you. This is going to be Northern Tier FPV. There you go, sir. That's how to update that module. Jonathan Bjorklund confirms he did mean bind and flight crossfire. I mean, obviously, Jonathan, bind and flight crossfire is going to be easier. And if you don't have a lot of experience soldering, then yeah, get the crossfire and save yourself the trouble. The soldering on the Evoke is not the easiest because it's a 20mm stack. It's pretty small. PSFPV, thanks for €5. I've got pitch oscillations in straight level flight. It's noticeable in the DVR feed as well as the GoPro footage, even with the default PID settings. Any thoughts? Too much information here. There's we need more information for sure. PSFPV. On the default PIDs, it's visible in the GoPro footage, so it's actually happening. It's not just like a loose camera. What about changing your BL Heli PWM frequency? That could do it. Change it from 24 to 48 or something like that. Thank you, Ricky Church, for a $5 super chat, and King Poopra for a $20 super chat. No question, just making a donation. Thank you so much. Wild FPV wants to know, can I replace a 7,500 kV motor on a quad with a 7,000 kV one? Yes. Yeah, you can. You'll probably not notice a difference. UAV Tech says that PSFPV should lower the ESC PWM frequency. My guess would be one of two things could be causing it. One would be an interaction with the motor harmonic at certain frequencies. In that case, raising the PWM frequency could get rid of it. But on the other hand, if it's a lack of torque, then it could be lowering that the PWM frequency will increase the torque and fix it. UAV Tech is suggesting, I think, that it's excess eye gain and lowering the drift wobble slider will fix it. I'd be surprised if the default Betaflight PIDs, I mean, I guess PSFPV didn't say what the build was. I'd be surprised if default PIDs were causing I-term oscillation or I-term oscillation in straight flight. Fagu wants to know, do you think we will have a multi-protocol module with 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS? I do not think that we will have that. The reason is that in order to do that, there would need to be coordination between the multi-protocol project and the Express LRS project, which would be more work and more harmful effects than they would be okay with. Basically, they would have to put Express LRS code into the multi-protocol module project, and neither set of devs want to do that. So that isn't going to happen. .661 FPV, I don't think it's startup power because it's happening in cruise. And startup power would affect, well, only when arming, basically, if we're talking about the same issue. Jason Lee wants to know, what are your thoughts on Chris Rosser's new video about 2207 versus 2306? I think it's amazing. I think it confirms things that people have said. Now, he's debunking myths about 2306 versus 2207, but people who know about motors have said some of these things for a while, and he's confirming them. One of the things that has been said is that 2306, the myth is that 2306 has more low throttle resolution. I did an interview with Ryan Harrell. I think this was where we talked about this. I did an interview with him several years ago where he talked about that it's not that 2306 has better low throttle resolution. It's that 2306 just makes less power. Because it's a little bit smaller stator volume, it just makes less power. And so it feels like it has more resolution, but it's just less power. It does have more resolution, but it also just has less power. So the takeaway is that you can accomplish the same thing just by putting like a 15% throttle cap on a 2207. So yeah, Chris Rosser's video is really great, and I'm a big fan of it. Aldi Duino, this is a tough one, says, do you know why my motors sound like they're grinding when they're running? What if you're using a version of D-Shot that doesn't work with your ESC? Try going down to D-Shot 150 and turn off bidirectional D-Shot, Altiduino, and see if that fixes it. People saying bad bearings, maybe. Bad filter setup, definitely make sure you're on default filters. I mean, I'm assuming that he's not got any mechanical problems with the motors, but I guess that's maybe not a safe assumption. Read in the Wind, thank you for a $10 super chat. Do you think anyone will release a combination 2.4 915 1 watt Express LRS TX? I don't know of anybody who's planning to do that. I think that would be an extremely niche product if it came out. I'm looking at the Discord to see if there's any questions. As usual, the Discord is doing a great job of helping itself. All the great people in my Discord server are helping each other and leaving me no... It's like, you got it. So, fantastic. Jamie A. asks, when I arm, why does one motor take longer to start? It could be a problem with the motor. Could be you have a damaged bearing or some other way the motor's rubbing. It's possible. Could be the settings on that ESC, like the startup power, are different. Go-Kart Mozart points out that Chris Rosser didn't mention heat handling. Yeah, it is. So it is true that a 2306 should handle heat slightly better than a 2207 because of its more surface area for the air to move through. Christopher Robin asks, is there any way to run Betaflight 10.8 on Windows 7 PC? There is not. They're not building it for Windows 7. I don't think you can do that. It's time to get off. I mean, there are lots of reasons why it's not a good idea to be running Windows 7 anyway, for security and performance reasons. But obviously, if you're running Windows 7, you probably have good reasons for running it, like you have got no money to upgrade your computer. Yeah. But no, I don't think you can do that. Rogue Pilot wants to know why Solderwick. I assume you're talking about the FPV Lux crate, where Solderwick was the mystery item. Is that what you're asking about? Why Solderwick? Because like here's how it goes, man. FPV Lux is like, hey Bardwell, you want to do a bag with us? We'll make a cool t-shirt. We'll sell it for $20. I'm like, yeah, okay, $20 for a t-shirt. That's fair. I mean, I can't make a t-shirt from Teespring and sell it for $20. Well, maybe the cheapest one. So $20 for a t-shirt. Okay, fine. Let's do a t-shirt with FPV Lux. I support what Daniel Sandoval over at XHover is doing. He's a good guy. XHover is a good company. And I asked online, I was like, hey, you guys who bought from FPV Lux, are you happy? You like what you're getting? And everybody was positive. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And then he says, okay, well, we got to think of the mystery item. And this is the hardest part. Like I would just say, just don't do a mystery item. Just sell a t-shirt and some props for $20. Okay. But I got to do the mystery item. And every time I've done a subscription box, like the signature item is impossible. Like the first time I did a subscription box, I did it with Quadbox. And I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And I named like 4 or 5 really cool tools, really specific to me. And they were like, those are too expensive. We can't do that. Oh. Yeah, so the mystery item's got to be super inexpensive. Because they can't afford. Because you're paying $20. You're paying $20 and you get a t-shirt, you get 3 sets of props, and you get a mystery item. It's got to cost like 50 cents or $1. I don't know what their budget is, but so I'm like, and I'm like, oh boy, let's do another prop tool. So I got to think of something. What is an item that we can put in this mystery box that is super inexpensive, but that will have like any value to people? That's like something they don't already have. And I thought, I got it. It's Solderwick. Now, if you're one of the people out there who uses Solderwick, then that's not, throw it away. You still got a t-shirt and some props for $20. Be happy. But like I actually worked really hard to think of something that, like, I bet a lot of people have never used Solderwick. And it's cheap, and we could just throw it in there, and they'd be like, hey, what the fuck is this? Solderwick. Okay, let's figure this out. Oh, this is really cool. So that's why Solderwick. There you go. Anyway. There were people who were like, I expected more, Bardwell. You said it was going to be something really special. I thought it was going to be a puppy. Like, I don't know what you expected. And I don't know what happened. I actually recorded a video, like at the last minute before I went out of town. I recorded like a 10-minute video, like saying, hey guys, here's Solderwick, here's how to use it. And I do not know what happened to like, I swear that on one of these SD cards, the footage is there and it's been deleted. Like, I honestly, I was on my trip and I was like, didn't I shoot that video about Solderwick? Because I'm going to show people how to use it. I still probably will shoot that video, but I'll have to reshoot it. I was going to try to release it around the same time the FPV Lux bag came out, and I literally, I do not know where the footage is. Like, I'm looking on my hard drive going, where did that footage go? and it's just not there. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway. Bisama Al-Quran wants to know, is your 533 Switchback your favorite racing drone? It's like the only racing drone I actually own and fly regularly, so I'm going to go with yes. Joey Whitaker wants to know, how was your vacation? It was not a vacation. It was a work trip. I don't take vacations unless my wife makes me. And even then, I probably still answer emails. I had a good time. Yeah, I had a good time. I wouldn't do a work trip that I wasn't going to enjoy. That's the thing. If a work trip was going to be like boring and stupid, then I would just say no, I don't want to do it. And I would just stay here and make videos and live stream with you guys. So it was a fun trip. And I got to see Stingy, so that was nice. Original Dobo, thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for answering Bersama so he could stop asking the same question 500 times. My pleasure. Dan Richmond wants to know, does virtual current sensor work? It doesn't count up while the throttle is at 0. That's correct, Dan Richmond. The virtual current sensor is an approximation, okay? It just approximates amp draw based on throttle position. Well, amp draw is not linear. But, you know, the theory is you're only pulling, you know, like half an amp or maybe at most an amp when the throttle's at 0. So it's just going to do its best. Mulligan FPV wants to know, not getting any battery voltage in my DJI goggles. I'm running the Caddx Vista with the Cricut 200 stack. I have MSP enabled and custom OSD on the goggles and telemetry in the config tab. Well, Mulligan, I have good news. Telemetry in the config tab doesn't matter. So MSP, make sure MSP is enabled on the correct UART. So let's see here. You're going to want MSP enabled on, hello. Where's our DJI plug? Here we go. The DJI plug, UART 6. So you want MSP enabled for UART 6. Because it's got the TX and the RX in the DJI plug. So if you have MSP enabled on UART 6 and custom, you don't even need custom OSD. Oh, wrong scene. You don't even need custom OSD to get battery voltage. All you need is MSP. At that point, there could be something wrong with your Vista. Now, make sure you soldered up the Vista right. Did you accidentally solder the TX and RX backwards? Because that could cause the problem, too. Christian Canales. Any idea why my QAV build just jumps and flips like crazy when I arm and give throttle? Yep, Christian, here we go. This is why. Oh, wait, whoops, hang on. I answer this question so often, I have a copy-paste macro for it. Here is, hang on a second. Christian, pause the video right now and read this and check these 5 things. Okay? And check them exactly how I say, because a lot of times people go, oh no, my motors are spinning the right direction, and then they just skip number 4. Nope. Check them exactly how I say. Yeah, Sander DeBronner in the Discord points out, going back to the question from about the Vista, Sander DeBronner points out that a blown diode on the Vista could be causing this problem. If that's true, then how do you repair it, Sander? Do you replace the diode or do you just pull the diode off? No, Mulligan FPV says it's soldered correctly. I'm assuming so. My receiver tab is working correctly. Mulligan, your receiver tab is based on this wire, the S-bus wire. Your MSP is based on these two, TX and RX. Now, they should be soldered straight through. So as long as you didn't cross any of the wires, they should be correct, but yeah. Bersama Alcaran, I've answered 2 of your questions so far. That's going to do it for this live stream. Please don't spam the chat with the same question multiple times. That's enough. That's enough. DJI, Crossfire, or Express LRS? I mean, you're asking which controller I would pick? Between those 3, I guess I would pick Express LRS. Sunset Park FPV wants to know, what does MSP stand for? It stands for Multi-Wii Serial Protocol. Cyber Overkill wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Oculus Quest for FPV? It's cheap, portable, very powerful, and could possibly accept a USB-C receiver. I mean, it would need like HDMI input, wouldn't it? Oh, crap. They have that. I don't know. The first person to... Ooh, this could be a good video. Can you just hook an Oculus up to an HDMI? Oculus Quest doesn't have HDMI input, does it? Oculus Rift has HDMI input. Huh. Can you do HDMI into an Oculus Quest? I would. Oh. Yeah. Huh. Oh, you can't do HDMI in. So that's not going to work. Hariedo says, I used an Avigant Glyph with HDMI input. There was significant lag. Yeah, I suspect there are going to be 2 issues with using a VR headset for FPV. The first is going to be lag. And I know what you're thinking. VR specifically is low lag. Yeah, for gaming. But for HDMI input, it could have lag. And the other thing is that how are you going to, like, window the HDMI input? That may be a solved problem. Thank you, Original Dobo, for another $50 giant donation to cover the rest of the questions. Excuse me, from Bersama. All right. Thank you. Thank you, PDXFPV. Says bless you. Whitmead missed almost the whole live stream, but you can always go back and watch the replay. Here comes the drone. Thank you for a $2 super chat. No questions. Just glad live streams are back. Eric Toft, the Oculus Quest has batteries. It's self-standing. FPV Fritz, I hope it's not allergies, but it could be allergies. We've had a very warm week, and all the stuff is waking up, so it is possible. Yeah, worth. Yeah, that's a good point. Ooh, John Goblin wants to know, can you open wide FPV in an Oculus if it runs Chrome? A wide FPV, it doesn't have low enough latency, though, to actually fly off of. Cyber Overkill, you're assuming the USB-C port can accept a USB-C receiver for smartphones. I don't know why we would assume that. I mean, guess it's possible, but I don't know why we would assume that. Mike Bergman, should I go with the Connex video system? Connex is completely out of date and don't go for it. Super Deluxe, thank you for a $50 super chat. Very generous, you guys. Thank you so much for reading all of Dobo's donos. Okay, here it goes. The donation train is kicking off. Any more content coming from the trip? Asks Bloated Goat FPV. Yeah, you can. I have a little freestyle video I shot. The same place Phantom FPV shot his. I mean, he really. Phantom FPV. I was flying with him during this video, and you know how people say, I'm not going to release a video because other people hit that spot better than me. Well, if I felt that way, I'd never release a video. But in this case specifically, Phantom destroyed this spot. Look at this nonsense.
On the one I did.
No, this over here.
Okay.
Let's see. Fast forward a little here.
Yeah. Oh wait, there.
Come on, let's get to the flying.
I
You guys can go watch the whole video if you want the behind the scenes. It's a good video.
Let's do it.
All right.
Look at that beautiful camera. That's Stingy's camera. That's his A4. Look at that beautiful camera. Look at that bokeh. Look at that
Called
color.
it.
Oh my god.
Game time. Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Doing it?
Around.
Come on, come on, come on. Oh, we got music. Oh no, I'm getting copy struck. I gotta mute it. Okay. Boom. No, didn't get it. Yeah. Oh, did you see that nonsense? Did you see that nonsense? And I swear, he was. So he hit it. He hit that gap like I don't know, early. I don't know how many times he had tried it. He hit that gap early, and he was trying to go. I don't remember why, but he was trying to go back and like get it cleaner or something. And then he just could not hit it again. He just kept crashing and crashing and crashing. And then he started saying, "All right, this is the last one." But then and then finally he was like, "All right, for real, this is the last one," and just boom, clocked it clean. Just clean. Pretty damn impressive. That gap is insane. It's so thin. Just clean. It was a glorious thing. The crowd went wild. Then he was hitting this one. And this right here, this roof up here, that's where I destroyed my motors. Trying to do a different version of this power loop. He's hitting this power loop. And he says, I'm going to do it with a roll at the top of the power loop. And I'm like, I don't think that's possible. When he's like, nah, let's give it a go. Swoop! And he more or less got it. Although I'm sure that he probably would like to have it a little cleaner. Oh, man. And then he's trying to do this one. Bonk. Anyway. So I have a little bit of a freestyle rip. I want to go back. I mean, I want to hit this again. This place is so ripe. It's so ripe. But I only had so much time. And so many motors. I destroyed 2 quads at this location. Doing shit nowhere near as epic as this. Swing! That's so much harder than it. Does that look hard? Because it's so hard. If you go too high, you end up in the roof here and you explode. And this is a really long reach, too. You got to get the angle just right. Here, we'll watch Phantom take his shot at it. Swing! Oh, so clean. And then here, well, yeah, yeah, okay. We'll go back and do it again the other way. So he's going to make up for that little tap by doing it the hard way. Oh, man. Cool Cat says, looks very interesting to fly there. If by interesting you mean expensive. Yeah. Anyway. Good dudes, good location. Hey, where's the rest of us? Oh, this must be before we all came out there to fly with him. It's good stuff. Super Deluxe. Thank you for a $50 super chat. Serious question. How long would it take the sun to burn my Oleds if I set my goggles in the sun? Super Deluxe, I don't know. It depends on how bright the sun is and how direct it is. It could be as little as a few seconds. I mean, I would assume it's 0. Sometimes people get away with it and it doesn't burn it, but it doesn't take a lot under the right conditions. Seconds under the right conditions. So. J.R. Bosch wants to know. Bosch. J.R. Bosch wants to know, what's the lowest amp ESC you would use for a 6S 5-inch Freestyle quad? I think 45 amps. Most anything below 45 amps is cutting corners somewhere. Super Deluxe says, I get OCD about sun in goggles, even watching people set their goggles down. Yeah, Super Deluxe, you're thinking of that time when Phantom put his goggles down on the table. That makes me nervous, too. I don't do that. To be fair, it was a cloudy day that day. The chance of actually burning his goggles is pretty low on a cloudy day. But, I mean, all it takes is one time when the sun comes through the clouds and hits your goggles, and boom. So I wouldn't have done that. But, you know, I'm more OCD than most. Folks, I just looked at the clock. It's 9:57. We've gone through 2 hours here. I've had a great time. It's very good to be back. Don't go, because Aaron Ciotti is in the chat, or at least he was, and I assume he's streaming tonight. In just a few minutes, he'll be streaming, and he's going to post a link to his channel. So definitely stick around for that if you're staying up and you want to see him do some streaming. I will be back with Blunty tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, doing the FPV news, and with 2 weeks off, we've probably got a lot of news backed up to get to. We'll see how that goes. Thank you guys for coming out. Can't be spring yet. It can't be allergy season. That's pretty much gonna. We got 2 minutes left in the stream, but that's pretty much gonna do it. We got maybe 1 or 2 more questions in before the stream ends. There's Ciotti with a link to his stream. It's February. It can't be allergy season yet. Oh, yeah. Ciotti, you giving away your Beta FPV Express LRS module? Ask Stingy what happened with his. Yeah, his Beta FPV module was not able to output full power is the short version. Super Deluxe, I'm not going to sacrifice goggles to answer the sun question. We know that under bright sun, directly in the goggles, it's seconds and they burn. So I don't know why we would destroy a set of goggles just to demonstrate that. We know it for sure. Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it for the stream. Thank you so much for coming out. It's great to be back. I'll see you tomorrow for the news and throughout the week. But we're going to get off the air now. Go watch Ciotti's stream. Have a great stream, Ciotti. Happy flying, everybody.